Spectrovision Radio.
As you probably noticed, this is an unscheduled episode. Before she took off for an enchanted vacation in Ireland, Mal and I had the opportunity to talk to Chrissy Newton, host of the excellent Rebelliously Curious podcast, as well as part owner of and regular contributor to The Debrief, which, if you've listened to our show for a little while, you'll know we often dip into their work for great stories. Since Mal wasn't around for last week's episode with Kelly Chase, and she won't be around for the episode that drops this Friday either, we thought it might be nice to break up the Tom and Jordan show monotony with this one, where it was Tom who wasn't able to show up instead of Mal. One of these days it's going to be me who takes a hike to let Tom and Mal carry the show for a week, but it probably won't be for something cool, it'll probably be for something like the flu, but whatever. Oh, also, another reminder that all three of us will not only be back for the first episode of September, we'll also be together live in Los Angeles this Friday, August 29th at Lights in the Sky, a panel discussion on the connection between psi and UFO phenomena. This is a big deal for two reasons. First, because Tom, Mal, and I are sharing the stage with Dave Foley, Tom Wheeler, Rizwan Virk, and Danny Sheehan. Amazing. But also because, if you didn't know it, Tom actually lives in North Carolina, so he's flying out to join us for this event. Once again, the link is in the description, so if there's any chance you'll be in or near LA on August 29th, this Friday, please come say hi. It would literally make our dreams come true. Alright, let's get to it. Hello, Chrissy. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Very, very good. We are delighted to have you today. Full disclosure, I've been a listener to Rebelliously Curious for a while, and it was actually one of the inspirations for our podcast. You probably didn't know this. I don't know why you would have, but it totally was.
Why? That's so nice.
Well, I really love the vibe that you bring, which is this sort of open-mindedness, not being too credulous, but also not being so skeptical that it shuts down conversations. And so you really have, I think you bring the right kind of truth-seeking. You really feel like our people. So I'm really delighted that you're here with us today. Thank you for joining us.
That's why we're all going to hang out in California after.
That's right. That's right.
Honestly, that's like, thank you for saying that to me, because I actually needed that. Because you wonder, you're like, you know, there's so many different types of people and it's so hard to communicate sometimes. So you're just trying to do your best with like good intentions, and then, you know, and filter through a world of so many different belief systems and ideologies, especially now, and just kind of stick to like basic morals, like just try to be a good people, you know, try to be good people, do good things, and like, yeah, be open-minded. So thank you for seeing that. I really deeply appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We definitely appreciate it. And everything that has really created the person that you are, like the posture that you keep on your podcast, I would love to start with that if possible. Like, what was the journey to Rebelliously Curious? How do you end up doing something like that? And where did it start for you?
In all truth, it actually started, like, I had a really bad breakup. But before that, it's always how stories start. But before that, I've always wanted to be in broadcast. You know, my sister's actually in broadcast. She's in the radio side. She's a disc jockey. She's a fabulous disc jockey. But for me, I like really love talk radio, and I've always wanted to be on this side. I just thought that I wasn't allowed to do it because my sister did it, funny enough. So I ended up doing public relations, and I was naturally good at it, and I really did enjoy it. And I'm actually really happy I know PR and work on it, because I'm extremely interested in the idea of communications from all different degrees. So that's really like started the love for something like this. But a real bad breakup like shook me up and made me realize that sometimes people are not the way that you thought they would be. And so that trajectory like moved me 2 years before COVID started. I was like, I need to go live my life and do the things that I love and not care. And I want to work in America. So I met a friend. She's my best friend now, Marie Nicola. Shout out to Marie, Karma Cake on Instagram. I met her before because I was friends with one of her friends, and we just never really chatted. It's so funny. I think you do actually flirt with your friends. I think there's a whole thing to this too, right? Like,
I mean, I'm a dude, and I say 100% yes. My best friends are the result of my flirtations, yes.
Exactly. And so we were joking around where I think we were chatting in a comment thread on Facebook and making jokes, and we were going back and forth. And then I I think we started changing our like avatar pictures to each other and stuff. And so I said to Marie, let's start a podcast. So we started All Pop Repeat, our first podcast. We did 2 seasons of it where we talked about how subcultures and alternative cultures turn into mainstream culture. And that's when we just realized, where I was like, oh, I'm like, she was able to create, she came out of a really bad relationship too. So it was a place where we were able to create together and find our own trauma, I guess, but also just create and do the things that we deeply love and support each other as friends and as women. And I'm so thankful for her. It make me cry. Jeez, guys, I'm so emotional now because she's one of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. I'm crying on a podcast.
Please.
No, but it's true.
Value added, Chrissy.
Yeah, and I'm so
production value.
Yeah.
And because of that, I've met so many wonderful people in my life now. And then obviously love UFOs, and then combined the worlds together and was able to create something that hopefully connects with people and says like science is accessible. Like all these things are accessible.
You probably have a really great marketing one-liner for pitching your own show. But if I had to summarize it in like a one-liner, I might say it's trying to sort of widen the aperture on scientific inquiry. But the name of your podcast suggests a lot in just 2 words. And I'm really curious what makes curiosity rebellious.
Yeah, I think I'm just a rebellious person in general. When I was a little kid, my mom used to say, like, I'd go up to her and say stuff, and she'd be like, "God, you're always being so philosophical. Like, why?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, what's, always asking what the meaning of life is and trying to figure it out. But just curious. And I think that for me it was, but then a lot of people aren't curious because they're scared. So I think the act of being curious is rebellious. So yeah, and also, to be honest, the debrief tagline was rebelliously curious. And so we all are at the debrief. If anyone listening who doesn't know, it's a science and technology news outlet I work with and co-own with a group of people. We're all very curious, but we're all rebellious very much in our own ways. We all have worked together as a community for about 5 years now. So yeah, I think that's what it is. I think I'm just kind of a little bit, for sure, I'm a rebellious person, but I wouldn't say to the point where I'm going to go burn something down. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I
I'm not
love
a full-on anarchist. I shouldn't say that. I think anarchy is actually misunderstood too, but I would say for sure I'm rebellious, 100%. Yeah.
I love the framing of curiosity as innately rebellious.
Yeah, just being curious is rebellious because we just don't live in a world that always supports it now.
I was having a conversation with a friend last week, actually, and I was feeling kind of sheepish because we were talking about whether or not boring people really exist. Like, is anyone really boring if we all contain multitudes, if everybody is kind of legendary and has ancestors and, is anybody boring? Is it my fault when I find someone boring? And her argument was, people are boring when they stop being curious. That's when they're boring. And it's not because they are permanently boring. It's because they've lost touch with their curiosity, with their openness to life and their questions and the things that really kind of keep you active and in struggle with reality to a degree. Or struggle maybe is the wrong word, but in a type of tension. There's like an interesting, pleasant friction to not knowing what's going on. And if you've just sort of decided to stop asking questions, you become boring.
Because everyone has a story. Like, what did they say? Like, everyone who dies, like, literally is like their own book, their own story. So
yeah.
There's so much. And if they might be like, oh, I'm not interesting, it's like, no, you are. You just have to see that you're interesting. So I agree with you. I do really agree. But I've never looked at it that way either. It's great to, yeah. It's like nobody's boring.
What do you wish more people were talking about right now? Like, in your experience of making this podcast, what are you feeling most fired up and vehement about these days?
Yeah, I think something I always say is that we've gone through multiple kind of like epidemics. And I think that we're going through is something about now is about people being believed. We don't actually believe each other. And I find that, and I see that in so many different ways. I see it in the UFO space. I see it obviously like related to paranormal. You even see it in the science communities. Like, you see it everywhere. Like, people just don't believe each other. And it's like, if people have gone through things or experiences or are working on something, the belief of somebody else or just believing in someone's experience, I think is like, that's hard to see. And I hear it maybe because I'm in this space and we're all in this space, I hear it more than the average person. But, and that really hurts my heart because I'm like, oh gosh, like, it sucks when people don't believe you, especially if you've gone through something traumatic, and there's different degrees of that for people. That is, I wish people would believe each other a little bit more and give each other a little more credit.
I think a popular posture in our community is this idea of accepting sort of everything loosely. It's very similar to the principle of innocent until proven guilty. Like, I think people should be assumed to be telling the truth unless it's very evident that they're lying. And I think we don't do that. I think we're often starting from a place of assumed guilt or assumed deception. I find it very productive in my life to start with believing people. And I think I learn more when I default to belief, but not belief in a committed sort of way where I like, this has to be true or else, but rather I believe you and there will be more evidence to validate what you're saying later, or there will be evidence that invalidates what you're saying. And I don't have to care about that in the moment. I can just believe you. I can just assume that you're telling me the truth unless proven otherwise. And I think that the default disbelief comes from a place of self-protection and fear about the world, about having your worldviews challenged, about any number of things. But I think that that's the problem, is that we approach each other from a posture of fear rather than love and acceptance or openness. Can people hurt you by deceiving you? Yes, but only insofar as you give them the ability to do that. Like, I don't think that just believing someone by default puts you at risk, but we behave as though it does.
Yeah, and I think we can look at this in different degrees too. Like some politicians, like, do you believe all politicians? I don't obviously believe propaganda. And I think that's a big thing that we live in now, is we have so much propaganda. Yeah. So that clouds a lot of people's beliefs, because some people are believing propaganda, but people's experiences, like you were saying, Jordan, people's experiences and stuff, especially with UAP and other paranormal related, I think we hear them all the time, and I listen to them, and you can tell when you're with somebody and they tell you something that's happened to them. It's hard for them to say that. You can see that. You can look at their face. They're looking at a memory. They're trying to capture something, or they're trying to understand, and they're asking questions. So I think that, yeah, you are right. But I agree that the challenge of it is propaganda, right?
I'm so glad you drew that distinction, because there is such a big difference between a personal story and propaganda. And I think the main difference might be, one of the most important differences might be the purpose of it. Like, when someone shares a personal story, the purpose of that is radically different than propaganda. And the other thing that's interesting, almost just rhetorically, is that propaganda is designed to be believed by people who want to believe it. In fact, my posture toward propaganda, or anything that smells like propaganda, is actually the opposite. I default disbelieve. I think propaganda is like innately dishonest. And so, but people, I think, are innately honest, even though sometimes they lie.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
There are so many biases. Like, you can't even keep track of all the different biases. I listened to a podcast a couple weeks ago where they went through 14 different biases that our brains are constantly, like, confirmation bias was one, complexity bias, that human brains prefer a simple lie to a complex truth. For example, community bias. It's very difficult for us to see a truth that our group, whatever group we belong to, doesn't back up. And with this sort of thing, there's consciousness bias. Like, your level of consciousness will also affect how biased you are to whatever truth you can take in from another person. But one that's making me think, with what you're talking about, one of the biases they went through was contact bias, which is that if you don't have direct contact with someone who's experienced something like this, then you're less likely to understand any of the experiencers or anything that you're hearing in that area. It's a lot like if you don't know any gay people or any people of color, then you actually might have some serious problems with empathy for those communities. You might not really understand what's going on with them because you don't have contact with people who are different than you. And those are all things that are coming into play here. That, and then the general stigma around this conversation. Is that something that you feel like you have to deal with? Like, what is it like in your life, in your day-to-day life, as a person who's a prominent figure in the UAP conversation? What is that like for you, communicating with people?
It's funny because I don't always see myself as that. I was like a person who just loved the topic, and I just try to go out and find the most information, and I'm like, thank God they'll let me in the door. Usually most of the time I'm like, how did I get here? I'm like,
so humble. You're so cool.
But I do. But I sometimes I laugh, or I'm like, wow, like, I grew up on a dirt road in southwestern Ontario. I'm like, what am I doing in Washington? And I'm like, love it. And I'm also like proud of myself, to be honest. But then I'm also like, what? And even people that know me are like, this is crazy, Chrissy. I'm like, I know, it's wild. I'm like, want to come on a ride? Want to come with me? Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no, or it's just like, go have fun and let us know when you come back. I think, yeah, we're all seen as different ways. My friends probably see me differently than other people do in this space because I'm obviously with them all the time, or people have known me since I was like 6 years old. I still have some of those friends that are just kind of laughing, being like, she was the chick wearing like, here, I'll show you a picture.
Oh, please. I want it so badly.
I think this is a rave shirt.
Look at you. Oh, man, you're cute.
I think this is like an early like rave shirt though, but I thought it was an alien one. This is like, this must have been grade 9. I don't know. But I laughed because I posted this once and someone's like, that's a rave shirt. And I was like, well, when I was a kid, I didn't know that. I was like 12, like 13. I bought it because of the alien. And it sparkles and stuff.
So you loved aliens even in high school? And as a kid?
Oh yeah, like since I was a little girl, I've been totally in this topic. Last night I was going out with another friend, and I think more of his friends were older and more conservative. So like between 20 and 30-year age gap, right? And he doesn't always talk about UAP. He's like, we might not discuss it. And I said, to be honest, I actually don't discuss it a lot unless people ask me. I just don't bring it up unless there's something topical, then I'll bring it up. But I'm not always discussing it in my primary world unless people come up to me. And that actually has happened more than ever is, for example, I'll go camping and then I find myself, they're asking questions. And then for like 10 minutes to 20 minutes or longer, I'm sitting at the table discussing current events in UAP, which I love, but I don't really bring it up a lot unless somebody wants to know.
I want to ask you, our show tends to try to be at least relatively topical. We like to get into the news and see what's coming up lately. There's so much noise, like there's so much chaos and noise all the time. So I'm just curious what comes up for you as being like, what is the signal in that noise for you right now?
Yeah, I have a few things that have been floating in my head, kind of like in and out. But 30i Atlas, and I literally interviewed Avi Loeb today about this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the interstellar object that's allegedly coming to Earth, right?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it could shift its trajectory once it kind of hides behind the sun and peeks back out. It changes its trajectory towards us. Like, what is that?
If it actually doesn't follow the orbital pattern that they've identified, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and it's like the intersections of the worlds I like. It's like we have the science space, but also this kind of like area too, where we're actually looking at maybe this is more of the paranormal and science, like having a conversation. So to me, it's so exciting. And I know Avi Loeb, like, he obviously discovered Oumuamua, and he has like a deep fascination. He has the Galileo Project. He's such a brilliant man, and I love his convictions so much. And he's like, even if it is a comet, he's like, we still have to be open-minded. And I'm like, I agree with you. But playing with the idea is what I love so much about Avi, because he's so open to go there. And, and he's like pulling up all this stuff. So I'm emailing Avi and he's like, here's like the new recent thing for my Medium blog. And here's all the stuff that I'm looking at. Here's all the new data. And I was like, see, I love you, Avi. He makes it so accessible and exciting. And so for that, I'm just like, what's going to happen? Like, November or like first week of November and like the last few days of October, I think it's arrive on like October 29th or 30th or 31st. It will peek out of the sun and then we'll figure out where it's going to go. And so I asked Avi today, I was like, so if we end up seeing it and it starts to, we know it's on our trajectory, like how long do we have? Right? Like, that's really the question. Instead of being like, it's nothing, it's a comet. It's like, like, do we got days, weeks, hours, or months? Like, I might love communications and scientists, but I'm not a scientist. And so I don't know how long it's going to take from the sun to get to us, depending on what their velocity and speed's going, right? With that said, he was like, well, we assume, and this is like, sometimes I shake my head and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm having this conversation with a theoretical physicist. He's like, well, if it's a mothership. It's like, wow. I know. I was like, wow.
I love he just immediately goes there.
I know. He's like, well, if it's a mothership, and it has like, and it's like a serious tone though. And he's like, and it might have, other craft coming out of the mothership. He's like, we could have potentially months. And I was like, wow, okay, thank God it's not hours and it's not like, days.
Right.
We got a couple months. And the reason why then we get into this conversation is about, okay, well, can we handle it? I don't think we can handle it yet as a population. God, there's so many things going over the world that we can't even handle. Last thing we probably need is that, or maybe we do need it, depending on how you look at it.
I think we need it. We need it so bad, Chrissy. And here's my fear. My fear is that that it's boring 2 days later. Like, that's my greatest fear is that it just barely even rates. Like, we're like, oh, there's a mothership in the sky and aliens are here to visit us. And everyone's like, oh, cool, amazing. And then 24 to 48 hours later, people are like, oh, yeah, whatever. I'm whatever.
Right. Did you hear
They
that
don't even
Steph
remember.
Curry revealed his new lemon lime drink or whatever? It's
Right.
like, that's how it feels. It's just like they're not
So-
at all equal.
Everything gets flattened into the feed. So I'm actually curious. I would love to press you on that a little bit, because I've heard people sort of suggest both things, and I don't hear a high degree of conviction from either side, where people think, there are some people who are like, oh, there's no way that we're ready for that kind of contact. And then there are other people who are like, no, I think we're totally ready. My opinion is probably that I think that we're more or less ready for that kind of revelation, but that it wouldn't make as much of an impact as we think over time, unless it was impacting people's daily lives. Because I think that's the thing that we tend to forget about. It's like, well, do you still have to buy groceries? Do you still have to pay rent? Do you still have to go to the gym not to die of a heart disease in 20 years? If that stuff doesn't change for people, then I don't think they care in a week. I'm curious what your feeling about that is.
Well, I don't think we're ready. As a general populace, I think individual groups are ready. Like, for example, our counterculture that we're in, like, we're definitely ready. Like, you know, we're the ones that everyone's going to be calling, being like, you know, I thought Steve was nuts, but like, Steve knows what's going on. I better call him, you know? And, like, everyone's lined out Steve's door, you know, and Steve's like, you know, updating them with books and pamphlets, you know, and like giving everybody like our podcast to go listen to. But I do think that a lot of people just won't believe it. Like you said, you know, Jordan, like they just won't believe it. And they'll be like, nah, like whatever. Until I see it like show of my back step, then I'll worry about it. But that's when we have a problem. Avi makes a good comment when he said this. I stopped and I was like, oh, he's like, if it's starting to come to earth, he goes, that day the stock market's going to crash, Chrissy. And I was like, oh, that's a bold comment too. And I'm like, and that's possible. Everything will stop. The question is, how long will it stop? What is it going to look like after? And, you know, I think everyone will be wondering, am I okay? They're like instantly going to think threat, right? Where a smaller group will probably be like, no, and they'll want to follow it. Some people might want to worship it. Like, we'll get this whole different group of people. Where I stand on this too is like, for me, it's like, I've done these exercises with friends. A couple years ago, when I used to, instead of owning a place downtown Toronto, like a house, I owned a condo, and it was like facing over the water, and we would sit back and they would sometimes ask me questions about UFOs. And I said, okay, well, let's do an experiment together. Like, let's do a visualization experiment. And so we would sit back and I'd say, okay, like now look, like we're looking over the water, over the condo, and something just appears like District 9. What would you do? Like, visualize it. What would you do? And you can see people are like, you know, because the moment they've never actually done that. They've never actually visualized in a space where you could see an open space potentially if you're in a city, but it being on top of you. You know, some people will freak. Some people won't believe it. For example, I have an acquaintance. I'll give you a prime example. She's going to lose her mind if this is the case. So before I even like publicly got into UFO stuff, I was always just going on my own, you know, searches, travels, you know, going to England, like rolling around in crop circles, like, and so, I just would never talk about it. Right. And she said to me once, it was someone I worked with, and she's like, you know what I'm really scared of, Chrissy? And I said, what? And she said, aliens. And I laughed to myself and I was like, can't tell you what I'm into. So I just said, why? And she's like, I don't know. I know it's so irrational, but I'm so scared of them. Like, it scares me so much. And we need to have services that set up for people's mental health to understand, because like it's going to be a wild time. And like, who knows what politics is going to do to this?
Oh, man.
I know, right? I know. Like, please don't tell us that, you know, they're another political party or something. Like, it just, I'm not here for that.
It's it's inevitable though, right? It's going to be, it's going to be spun. This suggestion that you have of maybe going outside into like a field and trying to visualize it, visualize it so that you can try to, no matter what happens in the future, or no matter, I consider myself a bit of a non-human intelligence agnostic. Like, I pretty much 100% believe that there's lots of stuff going on that we can't see and that we're not really fully aware of. And I believe that there's been a lot of secrets over the last 80 years in like world governments and so forth. But like, I don't know, like, the substance of any of this stuff. So I don't have like any real degree of confidence that there's going to be a mothership that shows up with like little UFOs sprouting out of it. But I do think it would be a useful exercise for people who aren't necessarily so deeply baked in this topic to do that thing that you're talking about, because inevitably what will happen in the event of something truly strange happening that's not happening in anyone's backyard, but that is happening in a way that is like, let's say, in orbit or on the White House lawn is the famous illustration. But if something like that happens, what we can count on is propaganda. to draw a connection back to our earlier conversation. So there's going to be propaganda, which means there's going to be a lot of deceit, which means we need to have our own personal orientations and our own community orientations toward these potentialities so that we don't get swept up in the propaganda machine. Because I think that's where the most people get lost, is in the manipulations and machinations of larger, more powerful entities that want to control the narrative. They're already controlling so many of our narratives. Like, there are wars and genocides going on right now that no one has any real clue about the truth of, because it's all just soaked in propaganda. How can we possibly hope to get the truth or have the right orientation toward this kind of insane history, breaking phenomena if we don't figure out how to get ourselves personally right with it? So I think that it's a really, really smart idea to try to do an exercise like what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I know with my friends, we're in the same boat as that. It's like I'll see something and I'm like, propaganda. I had one friend getting so upset during just the terminology, and I was like, you're getting upset over propaganda. It's like, you're allowed to be upset. Like, I get it, but like, you know what they're doing, right? And I said, they're separating you using a lexicon that they have taken over and that they want to be able to make you feel this way. So it separates you and polarizes you. So I said, don't let the propaganda win. Like, you just can't. That's something I have to tell myself all the time in this space, because we get caught up in, like you're saying, confirmation biases, Mal, and like all of it. Like, we all get caught up in it so many times where I've like stepped back. You're right. And if it comes into this space, I think for me, when UAP and something does appear or whatever it may be, is big confirmation for us. Is they call it like little d and big D disclosure. This is like, people are like, so like, they're sick minds. I laughed at her friend, and she was just like, my little dirty mind, Chrissy. And I was like, oh, I guess so. But big D disclosure, big D disclosure would be, that of what we're talking about to that magnitude. And so the things I look at is like, if I'm going to decide to follow any groups with people, it would be choose obviously my tribe and my community that I work with now, and people are going to change their mind in it too. But I think if you have the basic fundamentals, it's like, if you don't believe in killing each other, you believe in truth and transparency, and you do your best for that. People make mistakes and we move forward. Be kind and just do things that you feel is good for others and for yourself. It's like choosing any partner. And in this case, it's within your community. You want them to be able to know that your mental health and your physical well-being is just as important as theirs. And so I think when everyone has that mentality, you're going to move together and strive together. Everybody likes the topic of UFOs. Like, some people are scared of it, but people are curious. And if you're curious and you're looking into it, you're still part of the UFO community. You're part of like a subculture. I think this is a counterculture of people, because it's a movement of people looking for truth and transparency, but there are obviously subculture roots to it. So you're interested in it. If you like ET, you like all of those things, you like, anything to do with that, you're generally part of the UFO culture. And so I always hear this and it's so negative. It's like, well, you're just part of UFO stuff. And that's what makes me really mad, because, and if anything, if it's not taken seriously, and I won't say what company, but I remember a company asked me to be a spokesperson and I said no to it. But I was like, where's your, like, this is your key demo. And they're like, we don't want anything to do with the UFO community. And I was like, you're part of the UFO community, right? Like, I was like, you don't understand sociology then. Like, you don't even understand your basic core group of people that will champion you if you're building something that is about truth and transparency. You can't push them aside. And what you're doing is actually the opposite of the fundamentals of this, is working together. That's what an ology is. That's what an area of study is. We have to work together. So that's the part that I get really upset with. So that's what I would hear, being like, well, we want a spokesperson, but we don't want them from the UFO community, because there's a stigma attached to the UFO community.
And where do you think the stigma came from?
Right. And it's so stupid.
It's just the very successful product of a psyop that's been going on for many decades.
It's true. And it's so dumb, because when people say it, but I'm like, but they're building products in the space. And I'm like, I don't think you get it. I'm like, you're part of the UFO community.
I feel a general despair around the topic, I think, or at least a helplessness a lot of the time, because of everything we're talking about, because of how difficult it is to not just evaluate your own biases or the biases of your community, but also deal with the active manipulation that's happening. Like Jordan's comment about the psyops and not being able to trust the government. The whole area just feels like, oh my gosh, how are we not going to screw this up? So I'm wondering if you have what gives you hope
Oh.
That's my question for you. What
That's
what
why
keeps you
Mallory.
hopeful?
That's why Mallory's part of our team. She's the one that keeps us from going off. And
No,
I'd
it's
love
true,
to
and
hear
it's-
what motivates you and keeps you lit up in this subject and in this area.
That's a great question because we do need hope in so many ways. Like it's so important. I would say I really love to travel. So when I get to go out and meet people in this space or experience things, even like recently I've been talking to people even on my social media. I was at the Monroe Institute and like that's adjacent to the UAP community. It's the consciousness community, but like wow, like life changing. So when I get to experience that, meet new people, or just experience something different or see that different perspective, that makes me really excited. If I had to sit at home all the time and read about this, I don't think I would love it as much. I'm like such a tactile person that I got to go and do it and I want to experience it and I want to be in the thick of it. So for me, that's what makes it exciting. And that's what keeps me hopeful too, because I always know that there's so many good people in this space that really want good things for humanity and are trying every day to work on it and practicing it. And I'm like, you know what? And that's what keeps you going too, because you're like, there's not bad people. There's so many good ones too. Like so many.
Yeah. The community
so-
and believing in human decency.
there's so much thematic resonance with what you just said, and what we're trying to do with God's Ghosts and UFOs is this idea of it's, to describe community building as something that is about seeking out experiences of connecting to other people. So when Mal asked you what brings you hope, and you basically responded with, it is your efforts and your successes at having human connection experiences. It's funny because it's not just, if we frame this a certain way, it can feel like, oh, there's just so much darkness and despair, and a little bit of light is that one little conversation makes you feel right. But the reality is that it just totally eclipses any of the discouragement and despair. So when you are actually in the conversation, when you're actually connecting with someone and you're talking about something that matters to both of you, and you're feeling that sort of positive, reinforcing, caring, open-hearted energy from each other, that all the other stuff just, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, this is wonderful. Things are great. And like, what's not to hope for in that context?
Like it's so much fun meeting new people and learning new things and like being in their environments and seeing it. Like it's just, we have so much to learn about each other and with each other, and also like so much stuff to see. I become more like a kid where I'm like, wow, like this is so cool. And like, I don't get to stop learning, and it's just with each other. There's so many fantastic people. I have never met a community of people that literally like lays out like trips for each other, like does politics with each other. Like I was on a Zoom call once and there was like 100 people on the Zoom call through around the world and like Europe, and there was translators and interpreters, and it was organized by like I think like a small group of people, and there were all civilian scientists and media people, and I couldn't believe it. This was like I think 5 or 6 years ago. And I said, first of all, guys, like what the hell have you guys created? This is insane. Like it's unbelievable. And I said, only in the UFO community could you have like 100 people on a Zoom, or maybe it might have been less than 100, but I think it was probably like 70, 60 or 70. It's like as much as you could get on there. And I was like dumbfounded, because only in this space will they go do it. And then they'll be like, all right, so now you go and do this, and we're going to go do that, and we're going to go do this. And then they go and do it. And I'm like, wow, like the power of that. I laugh sometimes because there's so many things I could choose to do in the world, and all of us could. And people say, I'm like, guys, it's UFOs. I said, like, that's the thing that like drives me and empowers me and like makes me like it's freaking UFOs. Like, it's what? Like it's just, when you step back, you're like, it's just so wild, because it's just, you're like, I could have chose maybe to get into politics or something, but I was like, no, I'm going to go do UFOs. Like, and then that's what's going to make me happy. So like, yeah, I find it so weird, because it's something we just don't have a grasp on fully, and we don't know, but we're also empowered to figure it out and work together and like make change. And like, there's something to that for sure. Right. And again, not everyone's like that, but a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that spirit, sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
please.
I was going to say, in that spirit, Chrissy, thank you for joining us.
We could keep going forever, guys.
Yeah, I know. I
chat
feel
with you for
like it's
hours.
awkward. It's awkward to be like, well, I guess we have to stop talking now because it's such a lovely place to end. So I'm like, yes, we nailed it, guys. Let's do it. Let's stop recording. But no, seriously, thank you for being here.
Yeah, you're so true to your name. It's so clear, like, that the journey has its own reward for you, and that and how much you love people, but also open ideas and learning, like you said, and remaining in that kind of childlike state of wonder and learning. There's something trustworthy about how much you love it. You know what I mean? Like, you said you could end up doing all kinds of things, but I don't know. Why would you love it so much if you couldn't trust your love? You know, you're called to it. You're called to it, and people are attracted to you because of it and magnetized to you. So I feel like we can trust these,
on a podcast so much. I don't think I've cried more on a podcast.
Well, you're just bringing up all these beautiful things about community and people's open hearts and minds. And I just think we're going to have to, not to sound like a hippy dippy LA girl, but I kind of am. We're going to have to trust energies. We're going to have to. What else are we going to do? You know what I mean? If we're full of fear and competition and ego, and we're feeling scared and threatened, like, we're going to have to clock that energy versus the energy that you're talking about. What else are we supposed to do? Lean into the terrifying horror and the isolation and the disconnection? You know, I think energy matters.
It does. Yeah. It's not fun. And like, as like science, we learn more and more about it, and it proves that it's a real thing. There's something there. And like, it's, you know, there's more going on. As they say in Monroe, I'm more than my physical body, which is like so true. It's totally real. Yeah, it's totally real. And so, yes, but thank you so much. Like, you guys are so lovely. And like, thank you for those compliments. It means a lot. And especially coming out of like literally ending my week after this and like going to like a friend's like little lunch party and picking up my jacket. I needed that. So thank you, because I literally was questioning my own communication skills the past couple of days.
Well, thank you for all your good vibes, and please feel free to take as many of our good vibes as you want with you as you go.
I will, and I'll come visit when I'm in LA. I'll come knocking.
Please,
please do.
Let's have a party for no reason but to hang.
Exactly, it's we call a party for no reason.
Okay,
Chrissy, where do you want people to find you?
Oh, for sure. They can go to thedebrief.org. They can read all my writing there, or they can go to Instagram if they want to see my quirky sense of humor at times, or just things I like in my podcast. Being Chrissy Newton is my Instagram, but Rebelliously Curious with Chrissy Newton is on like Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, so everybody can get it there.
Highly recommended. Highly recommend. By the way, I very carefully chose not to have this dominate the conversation, but I could have very easily just had this entire conversation been about your conversation with Jacques Vallée. So anyway, very good show. Very cool guests. You always ask great questions. You always get great content out of the people you have on. So definitely recommend everyone to check that out. And we'll put all the links in the show notes as we do. Yes. You guys can rely on it. We'll definitely see you again soon.
We'll see you soon. See you in LA.
Right. Can't wait.
Can't wait.
If you're new here, be sure to check out our Substack, where you can find a lot more cool stuff and share your own stories with us. Just head over to godsghostsufos.com or find the link in the description. Also, a quick reminder that no matter where you're listening, reviews really, really help other people find the show. So, you know, hint, hint, please leave us one. All right, thanks again. See ya.